there is a TikTok video going around that is kind of the same kind of feel. If you never really understood how TikTok was being used by the Chinese and how far gone the youth is, there is a letter that has just been released. It's an old letter that was released again, now through TikTok. And I want you to listen. This is a letter from Osama Bin Laden and people responding. Listen.
This morning I read Letter to America, which is Osama Bin Laden's letter to America explaining why he attacked Americans. And I am ashamed to say that I not only have never read this letter, but I didn't even know this letter existed. It's wild, and everyone should read it. If you haven't read it yet, read it. However, be forewarned that this has left me very disillusioned, and I feel the same exact way I felt when I was deconstructing Christianity. I feel
shocking,
a little bit just confused, like I have entered into another timeline. What is this? And yeah, so go read it.
So I just read A Letter to America, and I will never look at life the same. I will never look at this country the same. Please read it. And if you have read it, let me know if you are also going through an existential crisis in this very moment.
And actually, before you even read the letter, I did want to mention, in reading the letter, I could only think of this tweet that I saw the other day. Under settler colonialism, any kind of resistance is branded as terrorist because the only acceptable violence is violence by the occupier.
So this is insane. I just read Osama Bin Laden's Letter to America, which I will be going through right here, but it's actually so mind to me that terrorism has been sold as this idea to the American people, and honestly just so many Western inhabitants within certain nations, that this group of people, this random group of people, just suddenly wakes up one day and just hates you, just wants you dead, wants you gone. And this is all because they believe that they're better than us. Like, that is the root of terrorism. It doesn't make sense. They just hate your nation. But reading this letter, it becomes apparent to me that the actions of 9/11 and those acts committed against the USA and its people were all just the buildup of our government failing other nations.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving me the greatest sense of relief. If you're Muslim and you've lived in the US since 9/11, you know more truth than the typical citizen. Now it's all coming to light because of Palestine.
Okay.
This is unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, this is, first of all, just a bunch of people admitting they're really dumb, right? Like, that's just part one of this is just,
I'm stupid.
I am stupid. Let me tell you about it on TikTok. Like, it's incredible what people will say on these social media networks. Just admitting you have absolutely no understanding of anything that's happened in the world over multiple decades. Like, what an incredible thing to just blurt out like you're so smart. And it is, again, this intersection of ignorance and certainty where these people stand all the time and just get run over by cars over and over and over again.
Okay, so I wanted to play that so you understood how bad this is in our own country. Okay, they're all 20-somethings, and they all have, for the first time, read this Osama bin Laden. They haven't been taught about 9/11 or anything else.
Oh, my gosh.
So now they are firmly against America, and they are looking at terrorism as legitimate now. Okay, that's TikTok. Thank you, China. Now, last night, I asked you, what is a good reason to go to war? Why would you go to war? Is it just an attack on the homeland like 9/11? Is that a reason to go to war? Are resources, somebody cuts off oil, is that a reason to go to war? How about genocide? What's the reason to go to war? And I think it all breaks down after you get past the first one, and that is an attack on the homeland and defense of the homeland. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Most basic.
So what is really happening with these wars? And when you throw the Bible in and or the Quran, and you have two groups of people, two countries that are involved in fighting wars that we are in through proxy, you would think that the media would be all over that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the Quran, we understand. You don't want to say anything about the Quran because you can't be against Islamists. No, I can be. I'm not against Muslims. I'm against Islamists. So we know why they're not saying anything about Iran. How about Russia and the Bible? Isn't the FBI and everybody else just terrified of Christians? Radicalized Christians? Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you about this match made in hell. The match made in hell is Russia and Iran. We've been telling you on this program about Alexander Dugin. He is Putin's philosopher, Putin's brain, and he's also bat crap crazy. When I first talked about him, I showed how he was organizing opposition movement in countries all over the world, including America. And he was using the Bible to do it. He was using Christianity as the shield. Well, he's not a Christian. In fact, let me put it up on the screen. There's his symbol. You can see it's just a bunch of arrows all pointing in a different direction. That is actually an occult symbol. And it's the representation in the occult for chaos. What did I tell you in 2010? Chaos would be the operative word when everything is coming undone. And anyone pushing for chaos, run from. That's his symbol. So the Western experts will never take this guy seriously. Even though we know who he is, we know the influence he has. He's the guy who came up with the Crimea strategy. He's also the guy that came up with the strategy for the invasion of Ukraine. The State Department looked at Dugin. Now, this is a State Department document. It was released 3 years ago, and it highlights Dugin's plans for Russia. And it states that Russia will, quote, divide Georgia, annex Ukraine, Finland, Serbia, Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece, and then gives Azerbaijan to Iran. Does that sound familiar, dude? What does that sound like?
Sounds like what they're trying to do.
Sounds like everything our government is warning us about, right?
Mm-hmm.
How come they haven't shown us this proof, this document? How come this was released 3 years ago and they've all internally, but you haven't heard any of the evidence of that? They just keep saying, he'll just march through. Why won't they say, no, here's the plan? When you hear neocons or most of the Democratic Party say we have to stop Russia now before they invade other countries, this is what they're referring to. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. And I'm definitely saying that we really should think long and hard before we get involved at all, especially in a proxy war, because of what else we have found. The very next page of the document, the State Department included 2 photos of Dugin and his followers fighting. I want to show you that picture, Stu. What do you see on their shirts?
It's far too small. Oh, it's the exact symbol that we just showed, the chaos symbol.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we now know what their philosophy is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's chaos. We know whose symbol that is. Why in this 77-page report does it not talk about dogma at all?
Why isn't it tied to any of those larger concepts?
Right. Dugin is quoted, State Department document, he is quoted about a new Moscow-Iran axis. Now, here's 2 strange bedfellows that have never made an alliance before, and they decide to be close friends. Why is that?